40 years of China's opening and reform. I look back, remembering the changes. In 1981, I came here as a student. I became a lawyer and economist, working with China ever since. I advised foreign investors entering China and worked with the Chinese government, drafting the regulations that made it happen. In the 1990s, with globalization, I helped China reform state-owned enterprises, turning them into multinational corporations that would compete on the global stage. In the past decades, I advised on environmental policy that would help China become the world's leader on renewable energy. I have not just observed, but also participated in each stage of China's reform and opening. Now, it's time to tell the story of these past 40 years of reform and opening that has made China the global economy that it is today. It is not about looking back, but learning how we got here and looking toward the future that we will create together. Join me, Laurence Brahm, for China, 40 years of reform and opening and marathon talks with behind-the-scenes stories from the experts and innovators who are the change that China will be. China, Reform and Opening, 40 years in perspective, coming to you from the Kerry Center in Beijing. Hi, I'm Laurence Brahm.
Hi, I'm Yang Xinmeng.
And here we are looking not just back at the past 40 years as we have in the past 4 episodes, but today we're going to start to look at the future.
So today we're going to talk about China's millennials, the future, the younger generation.
Wait, you said China's millennials?
Yes.
Why not Chinese millennials?
Because they're not all Chinese.
What do you mean they're not all Chinese?
I mean, there are so many international people there from different countries, but they are born and raised in China. They're also part of China's millennials.
So you're telling me that the stereotype that we have in the news that all Chinese students are busy studying, and foreign students are open and they're free and they're separate is not the reality?
Well, you already said it's a stereotype.
Yeah, it is a stereotype.
Yeah.
Tell me more about stereotypes.
Well, here's the video.
In today's age, the world's younger generation plays an ever more leading role throughout many facets of our society, even when youngsters from different countries exhibit such unique characteristics. A report shows that due to different educational systems, Chinese students devote more time to memorization, while American students attach more importance to pursuing deeper understandings. Consequently, Chinese teenagers have been stereotyped to be good at studying or being nerds, but then labeled unimaginative when entering society as young adults. According to a study, Chinese teenagers socialize less than 1 hour a day, compared to 2 to 3 hours in North America. Many thus lack social skills to deal with an increasingly competitive world. What are some of the main reasons behind the stark differences between China's youth and those of other countries?
The Western media is always sort of portraying Chinese students as they're only studying. They don't have any life. They're not, connected with the rest of the world. The glasses are as thick as the bottom of Coca-Cola bottles.
Those are not true.
That's not true.
No.
So, tell me, how are we going to change this stereotype?
We have so many diverse guests here today.
Should we introduce them?
Sure. Here they are.
Wow. I'm going to introduce Yao Songqiao. She is actually an Arctic explorer who is the founder of Wildbound China.
And senior student at Beijing Foreign Studies University, Sun Tianning, welcome.
And I'd like to introduce Nurali Abliz, who is actually one of the most popular stars on social media. If I'm correct, you've got 5 million followers, right?
Ooh. Yeah, it's a huge country. We have 10 million, like a lot of people.
And also we have student and also an upcoming media star, Zhong Mei, welcome.
Not really a star.
I have a question for you. I see all these students here, and my impression is that you always have foreign, Chinese students going overseas to study. They're going to America, they're going to Europe, they're going to Australia, but I never, really think about all these foreign students coming here to study except to do Chinese intensive language.
No, there are also international students coming to China to do full degree to study here in Chinese universities.
Can you explain more?
Sure, let me introduce you. Here's a special guest, African youth from Tanzania, Rakaya Basmat.
Wow.
Welcome.
We've got quite a lineup today. I'd like to begin by asking you, Song Chao. You are an Arctic explorer. You're under 30 years old.
Yes.
And you've been in the Arctic, Antarctica. You go to work with huskies pulling you to work?
Well, in
Is that
Greenland,
right?
we have Greenlandic dogs, which is a different breed from huskies, but also an Arctic working dog, and we actually go on dog sleds. Sometimes, not all the time, not in the summer, for example.
And you do kung fu with polar bears?
No, you run as soon as you can. Actually, you fire a flare gun because you actually don't want a polar bear to hurt you, and also you don't want to kill a polar bear, but you don't want to play kung fu with a polar bear.
Now, tell me, why a girl from China is now in Antarctica as an explorer, and you're also the founder of Wildbound, doing education for China's youth. Tell me about that.
Yeah. Well, so I grew up in China, pretty typical, and did my studies abroad. But I've always loved traveling, but also learning through traveling. And I've worked in the environmental movement for quite a couple years. And through that work, I've traveled to more than 10 countries in Africa. I've traveled to both poles. And I've spent over 12 times in Antarctica. So I've gone on scientific research trips. I've gone on trips with 77 female scientists from all over the world.
77 female scientists.
Yeah, a female leadership expedition to Antarctica. Oh. And I've also gone with tourists. I've brought Chinese youth. I think the Earth is the most amazing classroom for all of us. And different ecosystems are the best teachers. And we can learn just so much by being in the rainforest, being in front of glaciers that's tens of thousands of years old, and being amongst penguins and seals. We're not afraid of human beings, not like in a zoo or where you encounter them. And that's how life was like and how it should be. And there's this magic power in different parts of the Earth that can inspire young people, especially Chinese youth, who will be really important for the world when we're growing up and how we're going to become the best steward of this planet. So Wildbound is really the idea of bringing youth together, learning classroom Earth, and hopefully it'll change someone's career path or maybe our planet.
Just for a moment, this is like a completely different view, because the stereotype, again, that we always see in the Western media is that Chinese are throwing plastic bags everywhere and that there's pollution everywhere and the factories are everywhere and they don't care about the environment. But you're telling me that you're incubating, your generation is incubating a whole different set of values on environment, not just for China, but for the planet. Tell me about your philosophy.
Yeah, I think like back in the traditions, the Chinese Taoism, I mean, you know this, like 天人合一, we're being one with nature. So all of these plastic pollution, they're very recent in the past 200 years where we think that man can rule over nature. And true, through the reform and development, China has developed super fast in the past 40 years, right? Actually did more the work of 200 years of Western industrial revolution. So basically, it is becoming the largest carbon emitter in the world. It is our quality system, our delivery logistics is creating a lot of waste. But I think our generation truly cares. It's not that our generation are born with this world, that we actually have the ability to maybe do something to change it. And because we don't need to keep pushing on the growth anymore, that we can actually push for quality growth, for quality well-being, and well-being of the human, of the society, and of the environment. So yeah, I don't think that stereotypes is entirely true, because I think I see around me in the communities a lot of young people who really care about changing things, how things are done, and creating new ways of what development should be like.
Now, Tianning, you're from Beijing. Is it Foreign Languages University?
It's Foreign Study University.
Foreign Studies. And that means you're studying us foreigners. Is that right? You're studying us. Is that?
No, actually, I'm majoring in journalism, international journalism.
International journalism. And so now, are you going to change the way that media coverage is being done about China and the rest of the world?
Yeah, I'm applying for the master's degrees in UK and the United States for the communication master degree. Yeah.
Okay, communication is really important. And I noticed today you are dressed like a manga cartoon. Now, can you explain to me why a journalism major is dressed as a Japanese manga cartoon?
It's because when I'm dealing with my reports and interviews with people from various backgrounds, I always get exposed to different cultures and different politics and different systems. That's when I was very young. I used to love Japanese animation and including the mangas very much, and I was always very impressed by the European artistic style for their paintings of a Rococo style, Baroque style. Actually, basically this kind of Lolita fashion originates from Japan in last 40 years. Actually, they serve as a combination of the Eastern and Western culture, and that's why I use it as a way to speak for myself.
I remember 40 years in perspective, back in Hong Kong in 1983, and a bunch of Hong Kong friends took me to what was then the very first karaoke bar in Hong Kong, and they said this is a new trend that's coming from Tokyo. So it's kind of been like the trends have come from Japan to Hong Kong to the rest of China, and now they seem to be coming in from Korea. What is your dress today, your view, say about those trends?
I think that cultures is a process of flowing. It keeps moving and it will never stops. Different cultural elements just integrate and interconnected, and they just bounce into each other, and they inspire each other to generate a more powerful, more fascinating, and more more beautiful things, which attracts all of us. And I think that's demonstrating a future trend to just like a combination or like a melting pot that everyone is connected with each other.
Wow, I think you are a symbol of that melting pot. And Ali, can I call you Ali?
Yeah, it will be better.
Now, talking about trends,
Yes.
you are a trend setter.
Oh.
I mean, you've got 5 million Weibo fans.
Thank you.
Which in China, it's a big population,
Yes.
but anywhere in the world, most countries don't have 5 million people. So
that's
you
true.
are an internet celebrity. Does that make you careful about what you say on shows like CGTN, or I mean, tell me?
Yeah, no, it was you, man. I see whatever. Just ask me anything.
Okay. Well, first of all, you're dressed really impeccably today. Are you worried about when you come to like the Kerry Center here that all your fans, these girls will tear your clothes off? I mean, we don't have enough security here.
It only happens like once a year. No. Okay, so in China we have so many the KOL, key opinion leaders, because it's a huge country, and then we do have a very big community online, and then they are very diverse. So my fans are more about, because I write about time management and I like play games. Actually, I just came back from LA, Los Angeles, attending one of the biggest game ceremony in the world. It's called BlizzCon. Blizzard is one of the biggest American game company, and then it has a huge game, also very influential here in China. And I went there as a guest, and then I tried to enjoy every moment and try to bridge the two countries here. And I just want to say this is how diverse nowadays the Chinese youth are. You can see the girls are so different. And like the Japanese comic styles, we have a huge website. It's called Bilibili, and it's so big. I mean, yes, everyone knows it here. And those website has like 100 million fans, and then like people watch all kind of manga from Japan, from Korea, from USA, everywhere around the world. And so it's very diverse. Everyone has their own thing to do. And I really envy you being in Antarctica for 12 times. I want to be there. So I have to be only female to go there.
No,
you
no,
only
that
take
was
girls.
the previous expedition.
Okay, thank
I went
you.
on.
Yeah, okay. I wish I can go there as a male. Anyway, so I just want to say I'm so happy to part of the new trends of Chinese youth. And again, I think I have to explain to the viewer, because my name, Nurari Ablis, is not a very typical Chinese name. But I am a Chinese. I'm born here in China, in the western regions called Xinjiang. And it's a beautiful place. I invite you guys to go there. And also there, everything are getting better, and people have more opportunity to see the world. And also they are welcoming the world to see us in a different lens. And I'm just so happy, so excited to be part of this huge thing. I myself like history. I always think that if you were born 2,000 years ago, then you should be in Rome. It's like 1,000 years ago, you should be in Chang'an, Xi'an, which is the capital in China. Like 100 years ago, probably New York. But now it's probably Beijing and Shanghai, and you can see the world and how fast China is improving.
And here we are at the Kerry Center.
Yes, I'm
CGTN.
so happy, right?
And Zhongmei. Zhongmei is a Chinese name, but
Chinese
you
name.
don't look very Chinese to me.
No, because I was born here, and my parents were very excited to give me just a Chinese name, so they didn't give an English name. So it's just Zhongmei, translated into English, 中美, or Sino-American, China-American. So they were just really happy. They were like, okay, we're just going to give our kid, a name that no one else understands, which caused a lot of problems later on when I went to America because it was hard to make friends, Kids at that time didn't know where China was. My friends, my classmates would be like, what's your name? And I was like, 中美, it means China in America. They're like, where is China? Americans don't know anything about the world. So now I'm really cool. Yeah, back then, now I'm very cool. Americans, they see my Facebook, they see my moments, and they're like, wow, you're so cool, you're in China. And so I'm like, 10 years ago, you didn't think so, so it was.
Now, you're telling me that in America, being in China is cool.
Yes.
Tell me more about that.
When I go to America, I wear my ancient, my Chinese outfits, things that are very, very Chinese. I don't wear them in China because Chinese people see it a lot. They're just like, oh, okay, we don't really care. You look kind of weird. You look like an ancient person. So I don't do that. But I go to America, and I have grannies running after me saying, where'd you get that? I want to buy that for my granddaughter. And, everyone wants to buy Chinese outfits.
I've seen some of your postings with kung fu sword and, long flowing robes. And, you look like a Chinese princess with blonde hair.
Yes.
Well, her dream was to be she was inspired by foreign culture.
Right.
And I was just exact opposite. I was inspired by Chinese princesses. And just like Ali said, born 1,000 years ago in Xi'an, that's probably where I should have been born because my dream is to be a Chinese ancient princess. It's just no other way to do it. So that's what I do at home.
Her Chinese is better than mine.
I think so.
Her name, Zhong Mei, which means 中国 China, Mei, 美国 America.
Yes.
You are really then a connection between the two. I'd like to, on behalf of the United States of America, ask you to be President Donald Trump's advisor on China relations so we can change all this crazy trade war stuff and get on the right track. Right? Would you accept that offer, though?
I could
Green
do the
Party,
face, but I couldn't really say anything. I don't really know what to say. I would just be like, okay, let's all be in the ancient times and be princesses,
Okay, have a party.
Yeah.
And there was, of course, the Silk Road in those days, and now we have a cyber Silk Road, which is connecting all of you and everybody else together.
Yes.
And talking about connectivity, I think the connectivity between China and Africa goes back to the Tanzanian Railroad that was built way, way back when there was this whole movement of trying to support Africa and independence for a lot of countries in Africa and to overthrow apartheid. And you're from Tanzania. That's the home of Julius Nyerere, one of the great leaders of the Pan-African movement. And
Sure.
what are you doing here in China?
Okay, I'm a student. I'm doing my master's in international relations at University of International Business and Economics. In Chinese, it's 对外经贸大学. Yes. And, well, that's what I pretty much do. And I came in China in 2014 as an undergraduate student. Yeah, so I just graduated from my bachelor's and decided to do my master's. Yeah. And I came to China because I was just curious. I wanted to know more about China because there were a lot of Chinese in Tanzania. And then I didn't have it in my mind until when my dad, he visited Beijing earlier. So he was inspired and he was like, you can come study in China, you can go study in China and stuff like that. So then my mind changed and I was like, yes, China is a good place to go. I see a lot of Chinese, and from the media and everything, you realize that China is a modern economic developing country that's coming up. So I was like, yes, I would go there and learn. There are a lot of things to learn: culture, business, politics. There's so much going on. So I ended up here.
You're breaking my stereotypes because we're always thinking that around the world, everyone, all the different countries want to send their kids for foreign relations to like the Harvard School of International Relations, and everybody comes out trying to mimic Kennedy the way he speaks, and then everybody, is talking the same sort of, rhetoric. You have to have democracy before you can have anything else, regardless of what your culture is. And you have this kind of template, and now you're here, and there's actually, I think, a lot of students from around the world studying international relations in China.
Yes.
What is that telling us about the sort of world turned upside down. Isn't there a Chinese saying, 反口为主, right? To turn the host.
What's the Chinese saying?
The host. How do you say that?
Just say it again. I'm so sorry.
反口为主.
反客为主. Yes,
Right?
yes,
So
yeah,
the
yeah,
guest
perfect.
becoming the
Yeah,
host.
yeah,
The guest
become the
becomes-
host. Right.
Yeah.
Is that right? Is that how it
Yeah,
translates?
yeah.
The guest becomes the host. So now, what do you feel being here? What is China going to tell you about the rest of the world? This is a whole different perspective.
Okay, first, right about now I am, how do I say this? I am more comfortable. In the beginning when I was here, let's say in my first year, the first few days were hard because I'm exposed to somewhere new. The language was different, so it was hard for me. And then it was so hard. I was just like, I'm in this place, I feel lost, like I can't speak the language, everything is different. Okay, the culture is interesting, but I don't know, how can I adjust? So the first year was so hard. I mean, I could just think, when am I going home for holidays? I can't wait to go home for holidays. So on my second year, that's when it started to be a bit more of a good place for me. So I was like, okay, this is home for me, and I was exposed to so many things, so many people. I have met so many people from so many nations. I mean, it's not only China. Now I'm learning about other places as well. Yeah.
That's really so. I feel that learning about other places, especially as an American, because I think as an American, like especially about Africa, I didn't know anything about Africa until I came to China, and my roommates were Nigerian and many different places, and it was like, wow, like Africa's, you know, how did I never know anything about this place? Yeah.
It's true. And yeah, you would meet someone from some other place and they don't know anything about Africa, or they know something that is, it's, how do I say, it's portrayed differently. Let's say some people would think that it's only wars and hunger and everything bad in Africa. But in real sense, there's so much
Progress.
progress,
Yeah.
so many good things, a lot of things to learn about.
Right.
Actually, you've got a very young population. Africa is one of the youngest continents on the planet, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Yeah,
it is.
average age in Nigeria is 16, I think. Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
What does that say now about an interconnectivity through, social media, all the ways of communicating between Africa and the rest of the world? How's it changing?
Well, at least I know here in China we have so many, again, internet celebrities, because I focus a lot on the internet, right? So here in China we have an app called Douyin, which is like huge. It's called TikTok now. It has foreign versions. Now it's going big in US and also different places. And then on that app, there are so many friends from Africa doing their bits. There may be sketches and there may be introduction about Africa. And I literally learned a lot from that sketches, and then they become so popular, so welcomed by the Chinese audience. I know there's one guy who just in every episode only 1 minute and introduce, try to break some stereotypes about Africa. For example, it compares the African housing price with the Chinese housing price. And there's even about one joke that's one guy from Africa said that China is so hot, I have to go back to Africa to to take a break. Because in Chongqing it's really hot. That's a Chinese city. So the connectivity is amazing. Right?
Yeah. Sometimes about the heat,
Yeah.
I even usually feel so hot. Like the summer is so hot in
Right.
Beijing
Yes.
that I would want to go home. And if I tell a Chinese that,
they
you know,
say,
back
"Whoa."
home it's not so hot, they get confused. Then what do you mean?
But now we know that.
Yeah.
We're talking about heat, we're talking about climate change.
Yes.
Okay, now China's advancing with ecological civilization. It's going to be the largest producer of renewable energy systems. You've been in Africa, you've been doing work connecting Himalayas, Antarctica, Africa. How do you see the fight against climate change coming from Africa, China together?
Wow, Africa, China together. I think definitely a lot of the investment in Africa in renewable energy will be coming from the Chinese side, and that's a given, and that's for sure. I've visited a lot of agriculture projects in Africa invested by Chinese. I've done some work with the Ministry of Agriculture in Ethiopia. It was actually the most freezing summer that I've ever had. It was because it's 200 meters above sea level. And so I think there's a lot of connectivity in this way, and sometimes it's not just one way that China is giving the finances and the expertise. I think Africa has a lot of expertise and a lot of labor and a lot of manpower as well, and knowledge and know-how. For example, mobile payments started in Africa. M-Pesa is a company in Kenya, and they started mobile payment before Alipay and WeChat payment, by the way, although we use it so frequently everywhere. And in Kenya, you can use any phone, a stupid phone, not a smartphone, with your SIM card, and you can pay any street vendors. You don't have to have a bank account. So there's a lot of these underground ways that things could work without huge infrastructure. So Africa is already leapfrogging, I think, a lot. And with solar lamps, with off-grid solutions, I think there's a lot of ways that Africa actually is our hope for combating climate change, because we can't afford to have another wave of development that's the same energy intensive as China and the US and Europe. So Africa, everyone's looking at it as a future driver for growth, right? But that growth has to be green growth. And I think China definitely has a lot of lessons to offer, but China has to help Africa do better than China. That's what I think.
So when we see all this official Western media, we're always seeing these images, Africa's poor and backward, and China has no freedom of internet. But you're telling me that mobile phone payments began in Africa, probably using a Chinese smartphone because of the penetration. No? You're shaking your head?
Maybe. Yeah, but it could be like a Nokia phone, like the most simple Samsung phone.
Who uses Nokia anymore? We're using Huawei and,
Nokia is fighting back.
But Tianyi, when was the last time you used cash to make a payment? Do you remember cash? Once upon a time we had paper for money. Do you remember that? Your father may have used it.
Basically, I cannot remember the time I used cash, but I can remember the time I used coins.
Coins.
Yes.
Coins. In southern part of China, they love coins. I mean, but it's like for a very rare occasion, I guess, right? Most of the time you use.
If you go to supermarket, you use coins to purchase things.
That's because they like this noise of that coins clicking together.
That's a Cantonese thing. That's a southern thing,
yes,
right?
Yes.
They like the sound of the money.
Yeah,
right?
but most part in China nowadays, you don't use any cash. I mean, you just use your phone and to pay everything, and it's amazing. Everything, right? You use your phone. And you know what's like, even one day I was walking on the street, there's like a beggar asking for money. And then I said, no, I don't have cash. And then
he
just
gives you the QR code?
Yeah, give me the phone. And he said, I have no excuse. And I just have to walk away, I'm sorry. Anyway, so it's amazing. Last time I used cash in LA, I just get back from in USA, you have to use cash. But here in China, it's like it's amazing. I mean, how fast it's improving everything, right?
Yeah. And cash is actually worth a lot now in China because no one uses it. So when you actually need it, like the other day, I had no card and I only had my phone, but I was at the doctor's and they only take the card or cash. And I had no way to get cash. And I was a little bit like, oh no, what do I do? So I had to find a street vendor. I was like, okay, do you have cash? And they said, oh, well, you have to pay 20 kwai for each 100 kwai or something. And they gave me cash, but it cost so much.
It's true.
Now you're American, I'm American. You go to the supermarket and people take out checks. And they're still using checks, which is like
what happened?
I mean, checks went out in the Ming Dynasty in China, you know, right? I mean,
it's kind of true. It's kind of true, right?
So what does it tell us then about the use of technology here, communication, internet? The narrative we hear from the official Western media is there's no internet freedom in China, there's nobody talking on the internet, and because, Facebook's not allowed here. But I mean, obviously this is a financial play because Facebook got all the eyeballs in America, so China's going to basically, from the financial point of view, obviously kick off its industries first. Why give away 1.3 billion eyeballs? But you are leading the commentary on social media. How much freedom, how much talk, how much debate, how much argument? What are people talking about?
Well, people can basically talk about everything, but still, I have to be really frank. There are some topics sometimes we don't touch. Well, it happens, because progress takes time, right? So still people are going there. But for I would say 95% of the time, you can still talk about whatever you want. And then it's really free. And then, again, I think you can talk about anything from, domestic and international. And then all you have to do is just to make sure that I think sometimes, because if you don't think before you talk, there will be whatever you call fake news or internet bullying. I think China is doing a good job of fight against internet bullying by implementing certain systems here. So on the internet, so nowadays, like so many jokes are originally here from China, and then it was then in USA and stuff like that. So I think it's pretty cool. Basically, you have enough freedom to push the society forward and also enjoy your free time with it. Every people here, just look at us. Everyone's like so different. different, right? And I'm so sorry, I don't dress like this most of the time. So I thought this was a very serious show.
Of course it's serious.
Just kidding.
Of course it's serious.
Yeah.
Everything is serious.
Yes.
But actually, the future's serious because
Yes.
you guys are leading the future. I mean, that's giving me hope.
Yes.
Because, you know, I see you as having a whole different vision.
Right.
So if you're going to tell me about values of your generation, I just want to go around the room and I want each of you to say, what are the 3 priority values for you in your generation?
Okay, in my opinion, I would say climate, technology, and media, I guess.
Are priorities?
Yeah,
Okay. Why media is a priority?
because coming from Africa and being in China, not only Chinese, there are other foreigners who still have a bad image of Africa. They still think Africa is full of wars. I mean, hunger. Or someone would come with something like, you know, Africa is so far. Like you can't go there. But I'm from Africa. I came all the way to China. So the things that are portrayed are totally different. So I think we have to do more to, you know, expose.
Do you know why foreigners have that impression?
Yeah.
They're not watching CGTN. Because on CGTN we have a very big presence in Africa, in Nairobi, and a lot of coverage. And I think the CGTN imprint on Africa is quite big, right?
True.
Words getting smaller. The 3 value priorities.
3 valued priorities. I think the first one, I don't know, is this for me or
For you. For
For
your
me.
generation, but for you.
Well, for me, I think connections are really important. Connections meaning like I'm learning, like I want to meet him, I want to meet her from every different country. Like connections, just random people, because everyone has this like different perspective. Everyone's so different. And I think the fact that we can connect, like right now in China, WeChat, well, I can connect, I can talk to him, I can talk to her, I can be an American and still talk to everybody here. So I think, and also like the video chatting is really great. So I think it's really a big priority for me to see the world through connections and friends, definitely. And it's opened my own world, so I want more. Like more and more and more, and you know, more learning, you know, through friends. And the second one would be probably freedom of like pursuing what I want to pursue, which I think is now more and more open. I think all over the world it's more and more open, such as my dream of being in some ancient Chinese TV show. Now, being some ancient Chinese princess, that might have not been okay, like maybe 20 years ago in China, who would have thought? And now it's still not exactly mainstream, but my hope is maybe someday in my life that I can see that become mainstream. Maybe a foreigner can come into Chinese media, you know, just being a normal person in the show without any, like, a foreigner, without addressing they are different or anything. So I think maybe those are my 2 priorities, is, you know.
All right. Okay. So I would like to maybe I have a fan base or followers, and maybe I can speak a little bit. Yeah, no.
You have a huge fan base.
Because I do like to travel. I travel all over China. I have been to, let's say, 57 different cities here in China and different regions. I give talks to youth everywhere in China and also somewhere abroad. I'm going to do a talk in Nairobi. Hopefully, maybe next week. 27th. Maybe we can do something. Anyway, so if we talk about the value priorities here in China, or what are the features of Chinese youth, I would say there are 3. And number 1 is the can-do, will-do attitude. It's a Chinese dream thing. It's amazing that our generation has had that thing. Okay, I'm gonna be like that. I'm gonna achieve my dream. And if I think I can, I can. Well, at least I would try. So I was so inspired by her building this Antarctica company. It's amazing. I couldn't imagine that when I was young. I was born almost 30 years ago. Old. Anyway, here in this group, I know. So I was like, back when I was born, my parents would never imagine something like that happen. But nowadays in China, people can do everything, especially the youth. They have this willingness, they have this spirit to achieve that. Now, again, I'm also a little bit in the gaming industry because here in China, we have huge people playing computer games. And then we just won IG, which is one of the Chinese league team, right?
Yeah.
You know that, right? They just won the world champion of League of Legends. It's a huge e-sport thing. Yeah, so again, back when I was 11, my parents would say playing computer games is a crime. You should should never play it. There's no way you will be put into.
It's like drugs.
It's like drugs. But now playing computer games, you can have a career. You can have a huge economic base, and it's happening here in China. So the can-do, will-do attitude of the Chinese youth is amazing. This is number one. Number two is, I think the Chinese, most of the Chinese youth have the value of seeing things as they are. Or if I create a new word, it's called factfulness. Actually, this is the title of the book by Hans Rowling, one of very renowned professors in UN, but he just passed away last year. Just let's pray to go to him. Anyway, so Chinese people are more, I think, more realistic for the youth. I mean, we are not so gullible, I would say, especially the youth. They see things through their, let's say, as it seems to be, right? So in Chinese, we have 4 other words called 实事求是. It's actually the one of the leading slogans of our country. So we
seek truth from facts,
yeah,
right?
Seek truth from facts. So we want to see what's everything is going on. We like to hear from different people, and then we don't want to get frightened easily. So that's the case. So I'm so happy because here in China we do have, especially the youth, so they're getting more and more realistic, and they can still have the dream and do everything. And last value, I think, for the now the Chinese youth is accepting different values. This is amazing of Chinese youth that they're doing now. We are here embracing people with different religions, different beliefs, different thoughts, different preference, whatever that is. And it's amazing that the Chinese youth can be so open to the world, and they can have friends from everywhere, and they can have friends in every walks and every business. And I do have so many entrepreneurs friends. They are doing amazing things for their own communities. Some communities, in the past would not be accepted by Chinese majorities. For example, like maybe there will be guys dressing like this. Yeah. But it's still okay, and the youth can take it. I mean, they say it's amazing, right? So that's I think that will be the 3 elements of the Chinese youth. We can do well the attitudes, the factfulness, and also acceptance. I would say that is
Values.
Yes.
Yeah.
Your 3 big values.
I have only 2.
Only 2.
Only 2, yeah. And the first of me, I think that is knowledge. I think this is an era or time which where we are all inundated by the exploring information, because there is too much information for us, and all the information are flooding us. So we are losing the ability to examine or review the true, valuable, and reliable information for us. So I think it will be possible for us to not be able to gain more valuable knowledge in the future. So I think the knowledge, the true knowledge for us, and the ability to concentrate is the very important part for us in the future. And the second one is understanding. I'm very impressed by her speech that some people in China do not understand Africa at all. They think that Africa is full of war and those very bad things. But the truth is, when I was very young, my father used to be a overseas infrastructure construction engineer. So in his words, Africa is very, very beautiful, very advanced. It's the most attractive place in the world, he told me. So the reason is that he has the hand-on experience of visiting the place, and thus he can gain the mutual understanding or even multilateral understanding across the cultural and political borders. So I think in the future, with the interconnectivity and with the advanced knowledge, I think we can achieve it with the multi-angle and multi-perceptional understanding between each of us. Yeah.
My first one is actually justice or equality. And I would say that it's not meaning that everybody is the same or we should all have the same thing. We've tried that 40 years ago. Didn't work. But that we all have the rights to speak, to have the rights to do what we want to do, and also things that doesn't have their own voice, such as nature in the process of development, such as disadvantaged groups. And I think now with the internet, with Douyin, there are this platform for people whose voices are not heard before, that we have these internet celebrities who may not be our typical stereotypical good student or government officials or whoever. So I think that sense of inclusiveness and that sense of equality is emerging, and I hope that our generation can further it. And the second one is diversity, and I think all of us have touched on this change, this merging, this communication, cross-connection, and also on the environmental side, biodiversity, what we're actually losing. We have this emergence of cultural connectedness, but we're losing our species on the planet. How do we actually uphold both cultural diversity and as well as biodiversity? And the third one is actually a personal value of mine, which is abundance. We often live in this narrative of scarcity. We don't have enough time, we don't have enough money, I don't do enough work, or I don't have enough hobbies. That there's always not enough, or this whole nations, whole economies don't have enough. But we also are in a time of abundance because we have so much technology, we have so much human potential, we have so much population and young people, and there's already more solutions than we can handle, and we've known what to use it for. Yes. So I think that we are in an abundant period, that we can use this abundance for good. And I think that abundance is my personal value, and is hoping that my generation can live a narrative of abundance and live a narrative actually not scarcity, not running away or trying to chase things that's disappearing, but celebrate this abundance that we already have.
Now, wait a minute. You're changing my whole perception on things, because today I see, should we say, certain currents. We're talking about more media, more information, connectivity, treasuring the environment, treasuring our diversity, in embracing or welcoming of everybody together, seeing the environment as a priority. And one word, I would say, says something for what all of you have said today: incredible optimism. You are all incredibly optimistic about creating your future. Yes. That's very different from my generation. And you go back to America and you listen to all the politicians and all the talking heads on the different media, official media outlets. Yes. It's negative. Right. It's antagonistic. People are, fighting with each other, and there's divisions. And this is not what we're talking about today. Enlighten me.
Yeah, I think maybe they are positive inside, but negativity does have a better outspread. And when it comes to media, it's true. Good news will never travel far. In Chinese, we have the same thing, But the bad news, the anger, the fear can always touch you like so fast, so hard. The funny thing is that it's so interesting. Like, I just gave a talk in Silicon Valley to a bunch of technician guys, and some of them are from China, some of them are there. And the funny thing is, every time I went to America, I always feel that America is not safe. I mean, like, they're shooting every day, right? So, and then that's what happened. And when I went to America and asked people, how do you think of China? And they think China is not safe. I mean, there are like food poison and everyday smog, and you can never see blue sky. So it's always happened like that. So I think it's not about the two countries, it's about humanity. So humans are attached to negativities more because we're scared. That's our instinct. But we have to fight that instinct. We have to make sure that every time we see a bad news, we need to seek for equally good news somewhere else. Then we can achieve what Professor Rowling called factfulness. I think that's it. It's not about two countries. It's about humanity in the end.
You guys are fearless. You're in the Antarctica.
Yes.
Shooting flares off at polar bears.
Wait, is there polar bear in Antarctica?
No,
there's no polar bear. I need to correct
in
you.
the north and no polar bears in the south.
No polar bear.
Okay, so we got the world turned upside down again. Right? The guest becomes the host. Okay, but you were just up in the north too, right? Weren't you?
Yeah, I was just in Greenland.
In Greenland, okay.
Beginning of October.
Right, so you've been doing the polar bear in the north and penguins in the south.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
So, they used to say when I was a kid, if you keep digging a hole in America, you'll get to the other side. It'll be China when you get through the other side of the world.
True.
Okay.
Yeah.
At any rate,
so huge.
You guys are fearless. Okay. You are not afraid, which is also, I think, a generational thing. Yeah. Our generation is all about, fearing this, fearing that. This is afraid. This thing you were saying. Oh, there's this going on. There's food poisoning.
Right.
What makes you fearless?
Anyone? I would say knowledge. Again, knowledge is the key. So if you don't learn, if you stop learning, and then you will stop caring, and then you will be very easy to be bluffed, by negative news. If you keep on learning, if you try to, learning has so many forms. Reading books are one, and also traveling is one of the best way of learning. In Chinese, we have saying called 读万卷书不如行万里路, which is in English called reading 10,000 volumes of books is not as good as traveling 10,000 miles. So you can learn through traveling, through reading, and also, actually that sentence has even 2 more sentences called 行万里路不如阅人无数. It means that going 10,000 miles is not as good as meeting 10,000 friends. And the sentence has the last one is called 阅人无数不如高人指路. It means that having 10,000 friends is not as good as having a great mentor. So a great teacher, great philosopher. So nowadays we do have media helping us to get in touch with all those great teachers. And they tell us to meet people, to travel, and to read books. And if you do that, and then you will be fearless. But if you don't do it, it's easy to be, getting really gullible. Just like I'm going to Africa soon, and again, sometimes I feel, oh my God, I'm so scared. But and then I read books, I talk to friends from Africa, I say,
should
come
you
on,
be scared?
No.
Yeah, I should not be, right? I should not be.
beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, that's how it
It's a
goes.
great way.
Zhou Mei, you are not afraid to dream. You want to be a Chinese princess. I mean, this is dreaming, and you want to live your dreams.
I don't want to be. I just.
You are.
I just really, I do it in my own, spare time, whatever. I'm a princess in my own mind, and I'm happy with that. But I think every girl has a princess dream, of some sort, right? We're all princesses.
Some guys have it too.
Yeah, except I'm just a princess in Chinese ancient culture. And, you're just one in some
Right.
Chinese and Western,
Yes.
somewhere in between.
Qianning, you were doing, I think, a lot of research about Tantrayana and visualizations. How can you visualize reality and make it a reality?
Yeah. I think the most important thing is concentration. If you really really dreaming about something, you're just concentrating on it and to feel it, not with your physical eyes, but with your mental eyes. To use all your sense upon your body, or even upon your perceptual system.
Yes.
It's nothing about biological sense. It's more about it's a spiritualized, and then it will just see.
So you're saying I can actually
you can
become a princess?
Yes. You know what? We have a saying here in China. It's called 10个萝莉9个富. So if you wear like that, means you're rich. It's very interesting. Yeah. I want to be your friend. Yeah. It's so funny thing.
Actually, I used to not be so free-spirited in this dreaming idea. Actually, like I came to China for my last year of high school, and then I wanted to stay for college. And then my dad was like, "No, don't stay for college. If you study in China and you want to get a job in America, that degree won't mean anything in America." This was his whole idea, and I said, "No, you know what? I'm going to study in China. Like this is going to happen." He's like, "Well, if you do that, then I won't pay for your degree. You have to figure out how. I'm not like supporting it financially." And I was like, "Okay, I'll figure that out. Okay, this is all going to, go well." But starting in China, starting to study, at first I was really constricted by a lot of the rules. But slowly, actually through like making friends, and it was through connections and meeting more Chinese people who were more open-minded, and then it slowly made me become like I can pursue my dream. But at first, sometimes you get thrown at all these rules. You have to learn all the basics before you become anybody. And that really stopped me, because in America, the first thing is like, oh, let's open our mind. And in China, it's like, nope, don't open your mind in front of the teacher. Do it on your own time, but you can't do that in school. Like, you gotta be serious.
Yeah, you have time to open your mind.
Yeah.
I think it's more about customs than
Yes,
rules, right?
yes.
Yeah. It's like Chinese people have a lot of interesting customs.
Yeah.
It has no reason, but it's interesting. Like we like to drink hot water. I don't know why. But like never get hot water in USA. It's not good for you. It's a tradition, and we do it. It's just but it's good. Hot water all the time, right?
Traditions, traditional medicine. We were talking about that earlier, about Indian traditional medicine and Chinese traditional medicine. One of the things that struck me was when I was doing work in Africa, is a lot of the Western institutions would come into villages and say, get rid of these witch doctors and traditional medicine, let's all bring in Western doctors in medicine. But actually there's a lot of herbs, and there's a lot of teas, and there's a lot of rich knowledge with village teachers that could be institutionalized in Africa the same way as Chinese medicine was institutionalized in Indian. Tell me what your perspective is.
Well, first of all, I think Africa has a lot on the traditional medicine aspect. And I think we're still on the way to, get ourselves into being institutionalized as the Chinese medicine. So I think it's a good thing. Just as how traditional, we are so inspired with how the Chinese medicine is. There are universities that teach about Chinese medicine and all that, but we have African medicine there. So I think instead of, because right now some people would be so excited to come here and learn about the Chinese medicine, but we can actually just learn ours and,
Can you take that institutionalization methodology that was done here in China and bring it to Africa and take all of those medicines and turn it into, African medicine for the world?
I hope. I hope so.
And I think it will.
I hope so. And I think it will happen. It's just a matter of time. But I think sooner we're going to get there.
Well, we
It
were
is
talking
happening.
a bit about diversity, and I think there could be a top-down institutionalization. There could be also a bottom-up, the village doctors, the support networks,
Yes.
Right.
and that's really important more than technology and more than hospital facilities. Like, during the Ebola crisis, there were actually, the problem is Western doctors came with their institutionalized knowledge and networks, and nothing worked. Why? They look exactly like how the colonizers have arrived, right? So it's like, it's not that you have the best intentions, but things could not work. And again, this diversity and both bottom-up and top-down, I think you have to have both and have the respect of traditional medicine, of the local doctors, and of really support networks of women cooking together in front of a cook stove and chatting and talking and releasing that mental stress away. That's better medicine than any institution, I think.
Now, about a month or more ago, you came to see me with an idea. And you said you were going to bring your Arctic expeditions and start to do programs bringing Chinese students to the Himalayas, to Nepal. And that was just a dream a month and a half ago. And I think you just came back from Nepal. What happened? Did you live your dream?
So I just came back from a trekking trip from Nepal, and we're working with the Chinese Tourism Association, developing guidelines for Chinese tourists going to Nepal. And while we were in Nepal, we met with Himalayan Consensus, which is the organization Laurence has founded, to forge networks and communications among all the Himalayan countries. There are actually 7 Himalayan countries. And we also met with ISIMOD, which is the Mountain Research Institute, and also UNDP that's based in Nepal. We actually talked about the idea of doing a Himalayan youth expedition. So not only Chinese youth, but youth from each Himalayan country coming together to visit the Himalayas and have this collective identity of this ecosystem is beyond borders. It's not just Chinese, or it's not just Nepali or Indian or Pakistani. It actually is the Himalayas, the third pole, the highest mountain range.
Do you have to go to the top?
No, we're not. It's not a mountaineering trip. We're not risking people's lives.
Otherwise, you're disqualified. You don't know. No, okay.
Yeah, it's
just
mostly
curious.
a trekking trip, and we're developing that each student have to develop a research program to go along with it, and there will be a final group outcome, and to kind of showcase that where is that missing voice of the youth. And you were talking about fearlessness, and I think a lot of youth are scared. Like, where's our future, right? Like, where are we going in the economy? Where's climate change leading us? And in order to become fearless, we have to forge our own path. I mean, like, forging sounds like a fraud, like you're actually making this up. But it's true, we're making it as we go. The future is not somewhere we're going, it's one we're creating step by step that we have to just, try.
Now, yesterday we had a show all about technology. And the big thing that came up was, artificial intelligence and robots. And the big fear is that in the future, your generation will not have jobs because the future CGTN anchor will be a robot. So are you afraid of that? Or are you going to change that? What's going to happen?
Well, it is very likely to happen. Well, according to one of the most famous professors here in China, also one of the investors called Li Kai-fu, and whose book is called AI Future or AI Real. Well, in that book, 50% of the job in the future might be eliminated or might be taken over by the AI. But at the same time, it will be creating new jobs. I think I myself am positive toward that change, because in the end, maybe AI will free us human as workers who has to work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, as real human who can get connected with each other. And we'll have more free time to ourselves, and it will create enough value to support the whole humanities. So I don't think the job loss is going to happen for sure. I'm totally sure of that. But I think there will be new jobs, and I think that the society will be, just like what she said, there will be abundance resources for everybody, that you can have free time with your family, even more with the AI doing all the jobs over there. And in the end, I believe that in the future, human beings and AI can live, harmoniously, as long as, just again, like what you said, we create the future by ourselves, rather than it's not a destiny that we go into a doom. And maybe there will be more people playing games, and then right, and it can be a job. Professional gamers are legit jobs now. Yeah, I would say. Yeah, I think it's true. I think it will happen.
I want to start think about the future, because we've been talking about 40 years in perspective, the past.
Right.
But you guys are not looking at the past, you're looking at the future. And what I keep hearing today is that I have the power to create my future. That's very, very different than people saying, when I graduate, I must go into a job, or I must do this because that's what my parents did, or that's what my institutional arrangement says.
Right.
I'm hearing you saying, I'm going to create my career. I'm going to be that creation. So just for a moment, I'd like to step back. I'd like each of you just to look ahead and to say, what is the future I want to create?
Okay, the future I want to create is, how do you say, a carefree, hopeless one. You don't have to limit yourself. Just do it. You want to do something, just do it. Do not limit yourself. Also, curiosity. You should just, I want to do this, not because someone did this, then I should follow this path to go there. But you can actually maneuver and do something, and it can happen. So I think being carefree and not thinking of what happened, instead of what am I going to do, or what am I going to create.
The future I want to create, based on what she just said, was probably like my idea of being in China as an American, as a foreigner. I think the future, right now I'm already feeling it, just being normal, really, in China. Like, this is my home. When I walk out now and I take my WeChat and be like, okay, I'm paying with my WeChat, okay, I'm getting on the bus, nobody's really looking at me in Beijing. They don't look at me as a foreigner. They're just like, okay, yeah, just doing what you're doing. And I think that future is getting more and more, it's closer. I'm still a little bit of an outsider, but I think slowly there's going to be more of people like me, and we're just going to become the same as Chinese. So there's no difference between Chinese and other countries, foreigners. We're just all people.
All right, okay. First of all, I have to say I'm an educator. I teach, I write books, and also I work in the field of entertainment. I like to make people happy. So what I want to do in the future is edutainment, education and entertainment. I would like to create a future that everyone can free themselves from the laborious job they have to do every year or every week, but can enjoy the pure fun of knowledge, can go and explore the world without the burden of you have to stay some places and do your work 7 days a week, 5 days a week, and 9 hours a day. I wish I can create a future that I can help free the people from what has been like a normalized thing in the last 200 years because of the Industrial Revolution. I wish in the future school can be like what was very beginning, like Socrates talking to students. For fun, for the pure enjoyment of knowledge. And I'm working on it, and I wish more people can join me to work on that place. And I believe it will happen, I think, in the next 50 years. Yes.
Yeah, I would like to create a future with this environment that everyone can lead his or her life with full guaranteed rights and dignity. Because in the current world, some people and some groups' rights, they are still lessened or shortened because of various reasons. And I really want to have such an environment or future that everyone is fully guaranteed and protected. And everyone is offered the whole resources across the cultural and political lines to just make use of them.
The future I'm hoping for is one where forest covers are expanding, not diminishing, that the number of species are increasing, not decreasing, that we are eliminating all the plastics in the world, and the Arctic ice cap is saved, and Antarctica will be free from exploration, mineral exploration at least, forever, and that we can all go visit and see the penguins. And yeah, like everybody said, that everyone can be a creator, that everyone can have the freedom to create their own life.
Yes.
Now I'm going to ask another question in a bigger picture. So when I first kind of had the first glimpse of China, way back, and I guess it was 72, there were pictures on the New York Times and Time magazine of Nixon meeting Mao. It was our first glimpse of what was behind what they called the bamboo curtain.
Right.
That's a very different experience. And then I decided, okay, I want to learn Chinese. I want to go to China. The future is there.
Yes.
And believe it or not, I could only find Chinese language in one program, and the teacher was German, because there weren't enough Chinese to teach Chinese.
Yes.
I mean, that is a very, very different world in terms of connectivity. Now, most of the people who are making policy in America for China are my generation or older. So what does that say about their perception? I mean, their knowledge of China growing up was you go to Chinatown and you might have sweet and sour pork at the restaurant. But you guys are totally integrated with China. You know, you even said just now, I feel almost Chinese. I'm almost, part of it. And you are integrating with the rest of the world. What is this saying about where our world is going to go in your generation? This is a global question.
Yes. I think it will be more connected. And again, there is this theory because there's theory that anything that you learn after you are 35 and you are against it. People think so. If you're 36 and you see a new technology, new change, you think, I don't like it, I hate it, it's bad, right? So if you are, sometimes if you get a little bit old in your age and you don't open yourself to new knowledge, and if you don't learn, and there will be that possibility that you're against all the new trend. So I hope all the policymakers, they can still keep on learning and to see what's going on, to see the real thing, because it's not what like in the past. 1974, it was way back at the first time Nixon came here, and then we Chinese, we are ourselves amazed by how much progress we made, and we are learning it every day, accepting new realities. And I hope all those policymakers can again open their mind, visit more, and talk to the people, especially talk to the people who are regular working classes, and they will know what's going on here in China, and they will have maybe a more open mindset. And I believe that if our generations take over in the future, the borderline of each country is maybe even the meaning of borderline will become less important, and people will be more connected. And seriously, I have a huge dream. I think one day we're going to go to Mars, and there's no point of having a country. Everyone's Earth people, and then we talk to Mars people.
Song Xiao, you're the explorer. You're going to Mars next after Antarctica? I think it's colder on Mars, right?
Well, it was aliens desert. Well, 50 years ago, we went to the moon for the first time, 1968.
You?
No, not me.
Okay.
I'm not saying me,
Sorry.
but I'm saying like in 50 years.
Yeah.
I don't know where we're going to go in 50 years. And I think our generation didn't live through the Cold War, didn't live through the Cultural Revolution, didn't know that America is the only hegemony in the world. Like, we actually grew up when China was still developing. Like, I still don't feel comfortable saying we're a superpower, right? So, like, we know the process of development, and, like, that's how our generation know, at least in China, know, and this sense of progress. And I think that's good in a way, so that we're not tainted with the idea of there can only be bipower or one power or multi-power, that there could be collaboration. And I think China still should be humble. Although we are leading in a lot of areas, we're still not in others.
Global
there
future.
are more things, always more things for us to explore, to create, to generate.
Yeah.
And Africa and China relation in the future, what's it going to look like?
I think it's going to be a very strong one, a beautiful. I mean, we have always had a good relationship from way back, and it's still strong till date. So I believe it's going to be way great.
And Jomei, we're always thinking that everyone in China is embracing Western pop culture, but you're embracing traditional Chinese culture. Why?
I think Chinese culture, the traditional culture, and it's not about trying to be Chinese. It's about history, like learning the history, actually understanding the empresses, the dynasties, all these different beautiful things that might not be all kind of told around the world. We know Western art, we know all these things about Western art, and even Chinese, they love Western art, they love to talk to me about this, but I think I don't know if this is going to be Chinese themselves or foreigners who are interested in China who start the movement to finally bring Chinese culture and make it into a more, make it into a more known thing. I think it's just people don't know enough yet.
Xinmeng, why do people not know enough? There seems to be a lot of stereotypes promoted on mainstream media. Tell me about
Well,
that.
do you know there's a documentary by BBC, Are Our Kids Tough Enough? Have you guys watched it?
Watch it.
So it's very interesting. It's about, did you watch it?
I have not seen it. No, tell me about it.
It's about bringing two completely different education methods together, and it's about the collision and conflict between them. So 5 Chinese teachers were invited to carry out the Chinese-style education in a British middle school for 4 weeks. So the result is very similar to your experience in a Chinese college, because there are so many rules for the British students. Yeah, because so in that classroom, so the British students, they had to wear the Chinese student uniforms for the whole time, and they had to do the Chinese-style morning exercise every morning, and they had to get up at 6:30 in the morning and spend 12 hours in the school per day. So and the teachers also taught in a very traditional Chinese way. So they wrote on a blackboard, and the students were just taking notes. Yeah, so the students were not very happy about it. So it's interesting to see the reactions from different people. Yes. The students can't get used to it at first, because they wanted to have more variety in learning, and they don't want to be lectured, and they don't want to, like, they had to compete with each other in class. So that's really interesting.
But your average score rise up like crazy.
Yeah, that's much better. That's why they're
it's just hard working, all right?
Yeah. So that's why their head teacher of the British school said, he actually said that he doesn't think his students can get used to that Chinese style, but there are some good points in that kind of education, and he can see there's more integration in the future.
Now, let me ask you a question. You got 2,500 years of Confucian framework of looking at relationships. Does that affect the hard-working attitude of Chinese students and of foreign students born in China, growing up here, who want to actually be able to create their own future?
Yeah, of course. So there are so many good virtues in Confucian philosophy. And do you know which one is the foundation of all the virtues?
Tell me.
Well, it's actually the concept of xiao. So it's very important in Chinese family culture. So it's like, it means
Fidelity.
Pay
respect to your
so
parents.
that in Chinese. So we grew up being educated to be xiao, that you have to show respect to your parents, your ancestors, the elder. You need to be good to them, and you need to take good care of them. So we actually have a reporter who went to a family in Shanghai, and here's what he saw.
Hello. Hi.
For 71-year-old Chen Zukang, it is another day of utter happiness. His son Cheng Lei brings his wife and daughter to visit him at his apartment. While the rest of the family watches TV in the living room, Chen starts preparing a simple but typical Shanghainese meal. He says since he has retired, there's one thing that he looks forward to every day. The entire family enjoys his cooking together.
We pretty much eat as a family every day, and I love cooking for my kids. They spend time with us, eat what I prepare for them, and show their love and respect. To me, that's filial piety.
Chen says compared to decades ago, when he was taking care of his parents, the definition of filial piety has changed. It's no longer solely about providing material comfort for the old, but also now focuses on their spiritual and mental well-being. For example, Chen's daughter-in-law Tang Lingyun has her own methods of making them happy.
They both love traveling, and we do our best to take them with us to see the world, which was something they weren't able to do when they were younger. We've been to many places like California and Hawaii, and they enjoy it a lot.
Now, Chen and his son's family live in the same neighborhood within just walking distance of each other. The physical proximity allows more family bonding time and more convenience for taking care of each other.
There was one time my wife had high blood pressure and wasn't feeling well. We called our son, and he got here within minutes and took her to the hospital.
An important concept of Confucius thinking, filial piety, is now finding a new interpretation in contemporary Chinese society. But certain aspects of it remain unchanged.
Filial piety is illustrated by the Chinese character xiao. It is the combination of the character lao, which means old, and the lower half of the character is zi, which means son. And this placement is symbolic and very telling of what filial piety means to Chinese people.
The concept of filial piety stems from the survival need of the agricultural society where parents take charge of production and support their children. In return, children carry their parents when they are old. It is based upon blood relations and is fundamentally different from Western individualism.
Professor Lu says no matter how Chinese society evolves, this value of filial piety will remain as the pillar of the family structure. In his words, it is all about a balance between family and individual, and filial piety is that stabilizer.
Alright, what's up? Let me just introduce us quickly. We are Unfazed, we got Savage Poppy here, Lil Height, Lil Dragon, my man, infamous Audrey Chalamet. Alright, we're just gonna show you guys a few tracks.
Let's get it.
Yeah. What? Alright, first of all, shout out Dizzy Damage for the beat, Lil Katana, Lil Boot Stick, shout out Dizzy Damage, our producer. Say what?
Unfazed.
Yeah.
Unfazed. Yeah.
Say it again.
Yeah.
What?
Chain on me is gold. Diamonds on me is froze. Ice on me hella cold. With your girl, she knows. Wrist cost me a 3. Stephen Curry all 3. Green cheddar on me. Red butter's bloody. Uber everywhere, but in China we got DD. Uber everywhere, but in China we got DD. Uber everywhere, but in China we got DD. Uber everywhere, but in China we got DD.
Man, let's cut the song.
Let's cut it.
Next one, let's go. Let's go. What's the song?
Run it up.
Alright, let's go.
Run it up. Yeah.
Say what?
Unfazed again, we gang. Unfazed again, we gang. Unfazed again, we gang. Run it up, flip it up, shake it up, wave. Ice my neck on my chain. Ice my neck on my chain.
What?
Run it up, flip it up, shake it up, wave. Ice my neck on my chain. Ice my neck on my chain. I don't put old, only new. Got my squad, designer, and we rockin' new good, yeah. I don't mess with old girls, only new girls. Got my squad, designer, yeah. We too little now, party all night long.
What?
Sunning on that girl, hey, till the night's gone.
Yeah.
Rocking Louis bags,
Say what?
Rocking Gucci pants.
Say what?
Got these blue bands that make my pants sad. I got bad girls that love me.
What?
Bad girls that really trust me. In the club, nobody can touch me.
No.
Bottles all night, bottles all night. Diamonds on my chain, cause I'm a real one.
Say what?
I get bad girls, just get the free come. When the lights off,
Say what?
you gotta work it up. When the lights off, you gotta turn it up. Work it up, work it up, work it up. If you got cash, then work it up. If you in the club, then work it up. If you live, then work it up. Work it up, work it up, work it up. If you got cash, work it up. If you in the club, then work it up. If you live, then work it up. Run it up, flip it up, shake it up, wave. Ice my neck on my chain.
Say what?
Ice my neck on my chain. Run it up, flip it up, shake it up, wave.
Say what?
Ice my neck on my chain.
Hey.
Ice my neck on my chain.
Oh, wait, we doing another one, right? Alright.
Next.
This out here was our breakout single. Was this our breakout single? Say what?
Hey. I got lots of chicks on me.
I do.
Flexing like I'm Nike.
I'm body.
All the girls like me.
Say what?
They say I'm alright.
Yeah.
She want to ring by 9, she can't even be my wifey.
Say what?
She likes me better in person, but now she gotta Skype me. Bands on me, I'm mine. I got chicks on me.
Yeah.
And I can touch your body.
Yeah.
And she can touch my body. We in the Maserati. We at the after party.
What?
We left it in a hurry. So baby girl, don't worry. I got checks on me, and I can touch your body, and she can touch touch my body. We in the Maserati, we at the after party. We left it in a hurry, so baby girl don't worry, baby girl don't worry. I got checks on me, and I can touch your body, and she can touch my body. We in the Maserati, we at the after party. We left it in a hurry, so baby girl don't worry, baby girl don't worry.
Alright, what's the next one? What's the next one?
Yeah.
From the bottom straight to the top.
Wow, you
We still got more songs.
No. We got to talk to you guys and hear your story.
Aye.
Savage Poppy. Wow, last time I saw you was your Shenzhen concert, right?
Okay, we're sitting down.
Wow, the crowd was there. And how you doing? You just joined the group,
Yeah,
right?
I joined.
How's it feel?
That's our newest member.
Yeah. All right, now I got a question to ask you guys. Rappers always have these styrofoam cups. Why? I mean, you can buy like nice ceramic Chinese cups, or where do you have these styrofoam cups?
First of all, before we start, let me just officially introduce us. That's cool with you?
Yeah.
Alright, so what's up? We are a group called Unfazed.
Yeah.
Founded about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
My name is Lo Dragon, Chinese name Xiaolong. I'm more of like the manager of the group, work along the production side, mainly the videographer for all visuals and music videos. This is my man Adrian, the infamous Chatelaine, amateur MMA fighter. Record 4-0, 4 wins, 0 losses, 2 TKOs, two knockouts, and 1 submission.
One knockout, one
so yeah,
TKO.
don't disappoint him, or else you will get hurt. This right here is the lead rapper and singer of our group, Savage Poppy.
Yeah.
And this is our newest artist, Low Hype, Chinese name Qilin. And yeah, and this is not the whole Unfazed group. Actually, we have a lot more members. Shout out our producer Dizzy Damage, who's out in Poland now. Lil Katana, sound engineer, is in Toronto. And Lil Boomstick couldn't make it. He had another event here in Beijing. But yeah, so this is the Unfazed group. Back to your question, though.
I've seen you guys on YouTube. I mean, you have a lot of songs out right now. It's really getting all over the place. But tell me about those styrofoam cups.
So lean is what most people think are in these styrofoam cups. Lean's been a sort of it's codeine mixed with Sprite, and it's been a sort of popular, I would say, drink in the hip hop community. However, we're not drinking lean though. It's going against lean. We actually have tea in these.
Tea.
Chinese tea. And the idea is, to go against the whole idea of, drugs and music and stuff, because it's not something that's cool, and I mean it's almost like a protest against it.
Yeah, you don't need that.
You don't need that.
You don't need that.
So you guys are promoting clean living through rap. That's very different than what I expect.
We're trying to change the rap game,
Yeah.
Cause a lot of American-based rappers, they influence drugs and stuff like this, guns to the community. But in China, the rappers here, they influence about good stuff, to rap about good stuff out here. So yeah.
Now, how is Western American pop music rap influencing Chinese media, Chinese rap now?
Okay, if we look at, for example, the famous High Brothers, they take a lot of style from American rap, what we call trap music, where there's 808s, the beats just drop, and they say crazy lines like that, and it goes in the club like that. That's American rap coming to China. It influenced them a lot. So rap groups like us, we're more if you look at our visuals on YouTube, we have more Chinese-based videos and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's one problem I feel about Chinese rap, Chinese rap, is that I find it's being too influenced by American rap to a point where it's at a verge or at a tipping point where it's almost losing its own tradition. Yeah. Now, a lot of other rappers, though, is I realized I checked out a Higher Brothers video a few days ago, and for the ones that don't know, Higher Brothers is probably a huge Chinese rap group, Chinese-based, all Chinese. And they started to do it. They did it in this Chinese theme, and I find that's really good because it's going back to its roots. But yeah, I do find that Chinese rappers should focus more on the Chinese roots, because American rap groups have taken so much of that too.
Yeah.
Well, American rap groups are picking up on Chinese themes. Isn't there a group called Wu-Tang Clan?
Wu-Tang Clan, legends.
So why are they picking up on Chinese themes in America? I mean, this doesn't make sense to me.
I mean, I don't know. I can't explain.
China's popping.
It's just Americans find China cool, and then Chinese people find Americans cool. It's just culture with culture. So it's Americans think that China got some culture, and then and Chinese people also think the Americans. So it's just a switch and mix.
But you want to know what my take on that is, though? So, I myself, I'm half Chinese, half American. Palm Beach County, shout out Palm Beach County. And one thing I realize about at least Asians, as an Asian American in the States, is that, Asian Americans and African Americans are both part of this, oppressed, I won't say oppressed, but they're almost like second-class citizens in white America. And I find it's almost like if we're second-class citizens, we gotta stick together. We can't, you know what I mean? And that's where the cultures cross. I mean, you ask a lot of African Americans, and you know, right now there's a lot of tension in America between African Americans and white America, but I feel like there's less between African Americans and Asians, African Americans and Mexicans, and that's where all that influence comes in, is the immigrants, the minority.
Yeah. So actually, do you feel that tension here? I mean, you're going to an international school, or actually it's a local school, is it? What school is it?
Local international school, shout out 55.
Yeah, and where are you going?
Same school.
The same school, and you have a mixture of students there, right? I mean, it's not just Chinese students, it's all over the world. Do you feel more integrated with the world, or you feel alienated, or do you feel divisions? How do you feel?
All right, this is interesting. I feel sometimes alienation, at least in current Chinese society. I guess probably the way I look, it's like Chinese but not fully Chinese, so people kind of right away would assume he's not half Chinese, half Filipino. But you would say like Filipinos are good fighters. But yeah,
it's true.
Yeah, and I find it's this thing where Chinese people don't expect you to be Chinese. But then at the same time, I feel like, you know, Beijing and China really is such a global nation, and you know, you have people from all different cultures. I mean, we met because of China.
Right, and you've met, and you're from all over. And what about you? I mean, you feel are you mixed too?
Yeah, I'm mixed. I'm Chinese and from New York.
And from New York?
Yeah.
Okay, and so how do you feel? Do you feel like you're more American or more Chinese, or both?
To be honest, I feel like I'm right in the middle, because like what's the good thing is that you can actually, like, being right in the middle. For example, if I go to America, I can try to, like, some of my friends, right, I can introduce them to China culture and they'll be very, like, happy. And when I come back to China, some people that have never been to America, I can tell them what's it like, and they'll be happy. So like, it's like sort of in the middle, trying to show each other the culture and stuff. But yeah, it's good being in the middle.
And Savage Poppy, aside from being a rapper, star rapper, you are actually, if I'm correct, in medical school. Is that right?
I'm in medical school, yeah.
And where are you going to medical school?
I'm going to Jinzhou Medical School.
Jinzhou.
I've been to a couple, yeah.
And where is Jinzhou?
On full scholarship, right?
Nah.
Is it full scholarship? Oh, my bad.
Really? But,
Yeah.
I mean, let me ask you, did you apply, I mean, why are you going to medical school in China? I heard a rumor that you had been accepted to medical school in Canada.
Yeah, Canada, like a lot of different international countries. But like in China, like I would say, my teacher told me I was gonna go to Canada, Toronto. Then like I was studying Chinese, but I wanted to study Chinese medicine actually, which they don't offer. And like for example, I'm not saying it's bad. Western medicine, like there's a lot of things going wrong with people when people use those drugs, pharmaceuticals. But in Chinese medicine, it's more traditional and it's healthy because it comes from plants itself, like nature. And that's what I believe in.
Where are you from?
I'm from Namibia, Africa.
Namibia,
country, yeah.
Africa. And we were just talking in the show earlier about traditional African healing and the idea of institutionalizing that one day in the same way Chinese medicine came from all kinds of different villages and different, what they used to call kung fu doctors, eventually was institutionalized. Do you think something like that will happen in Africa?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you with that. It will happen.
And you're going to be the force for that change?
I'm going to be the force, the leading force.
So we're going to have a Chinese rapper who's going to turn around and institutionalize traditional African medicine and sell it to New York, right?
Yeah.
Sell to New York, yes.
You got the plug, right? I don't know anybody in New York.
I know a few.
It's too cold for me.
Hey, Trin, you've been pretty quiet, but I see your tattoos, and I know that you are like the official bodyguard of the group Unfazed, right?
Yes, that's my role.
Okay, now have you ever had to, I know that when they came downstairs in the Kerry Center just now, there were a lot of girls screaming. Did you have to like push them away? You didn't hurt anybody, did you?
Yeah, no, of course I don't. I'm not supposed to hurt anyone. I'm just supposed to keep the distance between them and the fans.
If you hurt someone, then they sue us, then we
Now, you are an MMA fighter.
Yes.
How old are you?
I'm 19.
19?
Yes.
Did you also graduate from the same school they came from?
No.
We went to the same school, and then he left.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
but
But
that's
you
how we
guys
met.
all met together in school here in Beijing.
That's how we met.
And you're 19 years old and you're an MMA fighter.
Yes.
How many wins have you had?
4.
4?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Zero losses.
Thanks.
0 losses?
Yeah.
Don't lose.
Wow.
Never been on the canvas.
Wow, that's fantastic. Now, MMA fighting, isn't it combining, like Bruce Lee, wasn't he the founder of MMA? I mean, in the sense that he combined all kinds of mixed martial arts?
Yeah, actually, his philosophy is what made MMA popular. That's what many people believe. Because, well, there was a time period where people believed that, like, well, people wanted to see that, oh, I do karate, but I wanna fight this guy who does taekwondo. But since the scoring and everything is different, everything about taekwondo and karate may be different, that they can't compete. But now since we have MMA, we have everything that's
integrated.
Yeah, everything that's together. Yeah. So you could be very good at karate, you could implement that into kickboxing, and then someone who's good at taekwondo could do the same. Maybe it's more of a kickboxing match, but if there are elements of karate and taekwondo, you could see who's the better man in this situation, of course.
It's like the United Nations of fighters.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, so what does that say about how our world is getting more integrated and more interconnected?
Yeah, I think that is a good example, because since we're mixing everything together and taking all the differences, putting them together into one platform that we can all compete in, it pretty much sums up that we can all work together to make something work, no matter what discipline you train in. Karate, Muay Thai, kickboxing, boxing, even grapplers, jiu-jitsu and wrestling. You want to compete in this sport, no problem.
I'm going to ask you all a question around to each of you, because the previous group that was on were all, also young Chinese, or young, not Chinese, but
international people who are born and raised in China,
so
or so many international people who come to study in China.
Yeah. So what was the word you said? China's millennials. China's millennials. Okay. So there was an overarching vision of every single person we spoke to that was optimistic about the future of your generation. And my generation, if you look at the news, everyone's pessimistic and fighting, and even you were talking about rap coming out of the streets of America. Yeah. It's negative, it's angry. What about your future?
Not all, but a lot. Not all, but a lot.
Okay.
There's a lot of good rappers too.
What do you think about your future? Are you negative? Are you positive?
Positive.
Positive. Tell me about it.
I feel like, I remember, shout out Rick Ross, rapper that also from South Florida. He once said, we have to destroy to elevate. Yeah. And I feel like, the generations before us have destroyed so much to a point where we have to elevate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it gives us no choice but to elevate, to spread positivity. I find there's been so much negativity in this world to a point where you're just like, you can't add more negativity.
It's true.
It's like the trash can's already full. You can't put more trash.
Yeah, that does make sense.
Adrian.
No, because there are obviously two ways to view it. There's the negative viewpoint and the positive viewpoint. Yeah. If you stick your mind on the positive viewpoint, your results will be more positive. So, for example, he's a rapper and he's in med school as well. That's actually great, since he's doing two very productive things. These guys make music, and I train in my martial arts. So these are all very positive things. Not everything is supposed to be viewed negatively, of course.
Savage.
Yeah, well, I agree. Like, in the past, there were a lot of violence. If you had to be a rapper, for example.
Oh, back in the day.
Yeah, back in the days, bro. Like, if you had to be a rapper, you had to be like from the streets.
Yeah.
I'm saying you had to carry a gun. You had to be in a gang or something like that for people to listen to your music. So it's like very confused. Like, for our times, there's like a lot of laws. We can't like come in China streets and start like going with guns and stuff. Like, no. And like that gun, like visuals on people, it impacts the kids also, because now they think they should have guns because it's cool. They think they should do drugs because it's cool. Yeah. But it's not like that. So it's like the new artists are trying to change that, actually.
I remember adding on to that, talking about the Wu-Tang Clan and influence on China. Yeah. Wu-Tang Clan recently, first of all, people don't know, it's like legends. They recently had a new song, I don't know if you guys heard it, on Logic's album, Wu-Tang Forever.
Yeah, I heard it.
And one of the rappers said in the Wu-Tang Clan, because they're pretty old now, and they said, I remember back in the old days, when rappers in the old days, I think he said, 9 out of 10 of his friends were convicted felonies or drug dealers. And it's like, that's how it was back in the day. But I find like, now it's more about positivity.
Yeah, but to be honest, I don't really know. But like from the times, it's like back then it was quite violent, but now it's people trying to fix it. But yeah, like Savage Poppy said, it's like some kids, they feel like it's cool just to have guns and have drugs, but I feel like you don't need any of that to be cool. All you need is just yourself, your personality and everything. But yeah, it's just like by the time of the day, everything was dangerous and stuff.
And the other thing that came out of the last session was a kind of vision that everybody talked about. You're online, you're interconnected. I would guess that you guys, WeChat, you're connected with people all around the world. Is that right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, when my day, I mean, China was a far-off place. I used to write a letter to somebody. It took 3 months to get a letter back. Now, there's a whole different world. So tell me about how...
So, you get the letter back. I'm good. You?
Tell me how you guys, as creative artists and as upcoming professionals and fighters, how you're going to change the world in one sentence. What are you going to do if you're going to say, this is what I'm going to do to change the world for a better place? Start with you.
I'll become a president of America, because like it's like
you're going to be president of America. I'll vote for you.
I'll vote for you too, man.
Because one thing is that
2046.
I'm not American,
but the reason why is because like if you become a president of America, right? First thing you have a lot of control. You're like Trump, right? He has a lot of control. You've been trying to build a wall, but I don't know, it's not really working so well. But yeah, you have a lot of control by being a president. You can make a lot of choices, but there's always a limit. But the reason why I want to do that is because you can actually, I actually want to show China and America, and so sometimes, you know, there's going to be a problem between like visas to go back from countries. I just want to try to like fix that and try to make Americans easier to go to China and China easier to go to America. So people learn, and also like in the textbooks in American, like when they write and in school, kids can learn about like history about China, because China has a lot of history. China has a lot of culture. And same as China. And it's like introduce Chinese people to Americans. Like you can have a lot of culture going back with each other, and like I would say that's very strong and that's very good, and you can really use that. Yeah.
Donald Trump, I hope you're watching Donald Trump, I hope you're watching CGTN, because the next generation is going to run for election, and it's not going to be about the outside interfering with America's election. It's going to be about the youth coming up. Wow, that's quite a vision. Savage.
Like, that's a tough question, I'll be honest with you. To change the world, like, I've never thought about that, actually. But, like, I think if people actually want to change the world, you got to change yourself first.
Yeah.
Want to make the world a better place.
Yeah, if you try and change someone's day, or you try and do something heroic in a day, you can't go out of your house without making your bed. Like, yeah, you need self-discipline to achieve such standards, you know. But yeah, I think if we all start with ourselves, we respect ourselves, we love ourselves, then only we can love others.
Thanks.
And then the world will be a better place. Yeah.
All right.
I'd love to elevate or promote martial arts in my home, Hong Kong. I grew up there, lived there for 12 years. Before I moved to Beijing, I actually used to go to school there.
Shout out Hong Kong.
Well, I mean, since Bruce Lee is from Hong Kong, right, or he was based there. There's even a statue of him there. Martial arts should be popular. Well, it's not as popular as everyone thinks it is over there. Thing is, I'd love to promote MMA over there. There's already a promotion, but I just love it to get even bigger, to honor this great martial artist we have over there. Because since his philosophy came true, every single martial art put together to a platform where we can compete, I think that would be just great, especially for Hong Kong, since that's where it all started. So if we could just grow the promotion over there, make it popular, bring fighters from all over the world who are different and great at different disciplines, I think it would be amazing.
Yeah.
Just for this sport.
And Bruce Lee always taught that martial arts was not about fighting; it was about inner peace. Is that right?
Yes, that is true. That is true.
Right. Dragon.
Honestly, I'm with Savage Poppy on this. I feel like, I mean, Michael Jackson, the great, has said himself, if you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make that change.
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel like we have, to make the world a better place, we have to first make ourselves better. We have to first do better by ourselves. And think about it, if every single person does that, it's just going to happen naturally.
Yeah.
But we have to start out by ourselves. We can't be going around telling other people to make a change if we're not making that change.
Shimon, what do you think today about the change in stereotypes? I mean, this is a totally different view of China's youth.
Did they break your stereotype?
Totally different than what I expected. What about you?
Well, I think this younger generation, their generation, my generation, they grew up, China's millennials, right? So they grew up in a China not known to the past generations, one marked by the extraordinary levels of wealth and also exposure to the Western culture because of the reforms and opening up since 1978, and also access to new technologies. So these people, they are living in an era of so many possibilities. and opportunities. So there surely will be more integration in the future.
Well, frankly speaking, you know, we're looking back at 40 years of reform and opening in China, the changes, we've talked about everything that's happened. But what actually gives me the most hope for the future is this next generation,
Yes.
the group that we've had on today,
Yes.
because their vision of a future is integrated, ecological, diverse, and open to everything, and
Exactly.
unafraid of being the change
Yes.
that can be our future.
Yes.
So I'm going to vote for these guys. I think they're the future. And we're, all right, and we're looking forward to seeing you again tomorrow. We're CGTN China, Reform and Opening, 40 years, coming to you from the Kerry Center, and we'll see you tomorrow.
See you.
Hey.
Okay.